All right, this is 8th grade Elevate lesson 56. Today we are going to be solving one-step equations, and we are going to be solving one-step equations for the next 4 days. So I have broken down the next 4 days into something that seems logical so that we get student mastery by the end of the 4 days. So day one, we are going to spend some time talking through the different parts of an equation. So it tells you that an equation is a math sentence that contains numbers, variables, operations, and an equal sign. So I've highlighted for students, for you, the different parts of an equation. So when you talk about numbers, students know what you're talking about. When you talk about operations, students know what you're talking about. The only thing that is not here is coefficients, which are numbers that are side by side a variable. However, none of the questions that we will be seeing some coefficients today. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, what I mean by that is having something like a 6W. The 6 would be the coefficient. Okay. One-step equations are algebraic equations that you can solve in only one step. So students should not be taking 2 steps, 3 steps, one-step equation, one step, okay? When you solve an equation, you perform the inverse operation you see in the problem. So if the equation that you have been given has an addition sign, you need to be subtracting to solve. If it has a subtraction sign, you need to be adding to solve. If the equation has a multiplication sign, you need to do division to solve. And if it has a division sign, you need to be doing multiplication to solve. Okay? And so because this is a one-step equation, we are only going to be using one operation to solve for each problem. So you do not have to go through this with students, but we are going to use these steps as part of your teacher model. So step one is to identify the operation you see in the problem. So let's look at question 1. So for your teacher model, you're going to take 8 minutes. We're going to go through an addition question, subtraction question, multiplication question, and division question. So students have all the necessary skills that they need in order to be successful during their partner practice. So each one of these questions 1 through 4 is an example of a different operation. Step 1 says to identify the operation you see in the problem. Let's look at question 1. The operation that I see in this problem is subtraction. Okay. Step 2 says perform the inverse of that operation on both sides of the equation. Our goal is to isolate the variable, which means to get the variable by itself. So the operation that I saw was subtraction. In order to isolate the variable, I need to do addition. What am I adding? I am adding 9 because in order to get rid of -9, I need to add +9, right? If I owe somebody $9 and I pay them back $9, I don't owe anything. I'm at 0. So in order to get rid of that -9, I would have to add 9. And so I'm adding 9 on both sides. Let me actually use a pen for this. So I'm adding 9 on both sides. It cancels out. Now I'm left with m by itself. And then on the right-hand side, and then I'm doing 26 plus 9, giving me 35. So m is equal to 35. Okay, moving on to step number 2, or question number 2, sorry. I need to identify the operation 3c. That's multiplication. That means 3 times c. Inverse operation of multiplication is division. So in order to get rid of c being multiplied by 3, I need to divide by 3. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I'm dividing by 3 on both sides. The 3's cancel out. I'm left with c by itself. And then 30 divided by 3 is equal to 10. Okay, now here, question 3, we have an addition question. Opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm subtracting 12 on both sides. Get rid of that 12. I'm left with y on the right-hand side. And then 45 minus 12 gives me 33. Question 4, I have n divided by 7. The opposite of 7, or the inverse operation of division, is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 7 on both sides. Some students are familiar with doing it like this. 7's cancel out. We are left with n, and then 42 times 7 is 294. So in the 8 minutes, you would have modeled all 4 operations. One example for each operation. I can anticipate that students may struggle with the multiplication and the division operation. So as you circulate during partner practice time, you might have to jump in to support students around more at bats around that, which is fine, but they will have 10 minutes to work on questions 5 through 8. Circulate, support, see how they're doing. There's no exit ticket for the day for lesson 56, okay? Lesson 57, still working on one-step equations. We do not have to go through this mini lesson again unless you are seeing that students are struggling. You will spend 5 minutes with a teacher model, all 4 operations again. And then students are going to spend the majority of their time today on questions 13 to 14 to 24 as you're circulating 15 minutes partner practice time. Solidify that learning, okay? On day 3, which is lesson 58, students are going to spend only 7 minutes of time in partner practice on these one-step equations. So notice that we're not starting with a model. Unless you have a kid maybe who wasn't there for the past 2 days, you may want to sit side by side and support them with the lesson. But there is no teacher model for the day. You are launching into partner practice for the first 4 questions. And then the last 7 minutes are going to be dedicated to just students practicing on their own, building up that stamina. And you really want to intentionally circulate during this time to see where students' errors are around these 4 questions, because on the final day, which is lesson 59, they are going to take a quiz. And on quiz day, they will have 15 minutes and they will have 8 questions to work on within those 15 minutes all by themselves. Once they're done, they can log into iReady to work on their MyPath. But this is the trajectory for lessons 56 to 59. And as always, the fluency is always at the bottom of every single day.